December 9, 1945, 11:47 a.m. A 1938 Cadillac Model 75 sedan tears down a frost-covered road near Mannheim, Germany. Behind the wheel sits General George S. Patton, Jr., 4 stars gleaming on his collar, ivory-handled revolvers at his hip. His aide, Major Hobart Gay, grips the door handle, white-knuckled. "Sir, you're going 60." Patton doesn't slow down. His jaw is set. His eyes are fixed on the road ahead, like he's charging into enemy territory. "Death doesn't want me yet, Gay," he says. "I've got 9 lives, maybe more." It's not a joke. For 3 years, Patton has led the Third Army across Europe. 600,000 men, 12 countries, victory after victory. He's been shot at 47 times, survived malaria, walked away from a plane crash in 1943 without a scratch. Every close call has convinced him of one thing: he's invincible. The car hits 70 miles per hour. "Sir, I've been a soldier in every war since the beginning of time, Gay. I was at Carthage. I fought with Caesar. I rode with Napoleon." This isn't metaphor. Patton believes it, actually believes it. He's convinced he's lived before, that he's died in battle a dozen times and come back, that destiny has chosen him for eternal glory. The speedometer hits 75, and then everything goes wrong. To understand why this moment matters, you need to know who George Patton really was. Not the general, not the legend, the man who thought he was immortal. Patton was born November 11, 1885, in San Marino, California, old military family. His grandfather died fighting for the Confederacy. His father was a district attorney who filled young George's head with stories of ancient warriors. By age 6, Patton could recite Homer's Iliad from memory. By 12, he was convinced he'd been a soldier in past lives. He kept journals about it, detailed descriptions of battles he'd fought in ancient Rome, medieval France, Napoleonic Europe. He could describe the weight of a Roman gladius in his hand, the sound of cannons at Waterloo. His family thought it was just a vivid imagination. It wasn't. Patton attended West Point, graduated in 1909, ranked 46th out of 103 cadets. Not brilliant, but something else burned in him, something fierce. In 1912, he competed in the Stockholm Olympics, modern pentathlon, pistol shooting, sword fighting, swimming, horse riding, cross-country running. He came in 5th, but here's what matters. During the pistol event, officials thought he'd missed the target completely. Patton insisted he'd shot through his own bullet hole, that his accuracy was so perfect he'd hit the exact same spot twice. They didn't believe him. He never forgot that. World War I came. Patton went to France, commanded the 1st American tank unit in combat, got shot in the leg during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, kept commanding his men while bleeding into the mud. The bullet missed his femoral artery by 3 millimeters. "See?" he told his Batman. "Can't kill me." Between the wars, he studied obsessively military history, reincarnation, ancient warfare. He wrote poetry about his past lives, about dying on battlefields across centuries. His wife Beatrice thought it was eccentric. His fellow officers thought he was crazy. But then World War II started, and suddenly the crazy general was the one winning. North Africa, 1943. Patton takes command of the demoralized Second Corps after their defeat at Kasserine Pass. In 3 weeks, he transforms them. Strict discipline, brutal standards. Every man wears a helmet and tie, even in the desert. They think he's insane.
Then they start winning. Sicily, France, the drive across Europe, the relief of Bastogne. Patton's Third Army moves faster, fights harder, suffers fewer casualties than any comparable unit. His men call him Old Blood and Guts. Behind his back, they mutter, "Yeah, our blood, his guts." But they follow him because Patton truly believes he cannot die. He stands in the open during artillery barrages, walks through minefields, flies in damaged planes. Every time he survives. Every time his conviction grows stronger. "I'm not afraid of death," he tells reporters in 1944. "I've died too many times before." And then the war ends. May 8th, 1945. The fighting stops. The guns go silent. And George Patton realizes he has nothing left to live for. The thing about Patton was this: he didn't want peace. Peace meant obsolescence. It meant returning to a world where generals push papers instead of armies, where glory is a memory instead of a daily conquest. He couldn't accept it. In June 1945, military command assigns him as military governor of Bavaria, a desk job, administrative work, dealing with refugees and reconstruction. For a man who believes he was born to fight, it's a death sentence. He starts making mistakes, reckless statements. He tells reporters the Nazi Party was just like the Democrats and Republicans back home, just politics. The backlash is immediate. Eisenhower relieves him of command on October 7, 1945. Patton is reassigned to command the 15th Army, a paper organization. They compile reports on the war. No troops, no tanks, no battles. It's a humiliation. He's 60 years old. His whole identity is wrapped up in war, in movement, in conquest. Without war, who is he? That's when the recklessness really starts. He drives too fast, drinks too much, picks fights with his staff, takes unnecessary risks like he's daring fate to finally claim him. Maybe immortality was the real curse, he writes in his journal, November 1945. Maybe I was supposed to die in battle. Maybe I've outlived my purpose. The handwriting is shaky. And then comes December 9th. 11:47 a.m. The Cadillac is doing 75 miles per hour on a narrow road outside Mannheim. Major Gay is pleading with him to slow down. Patton isn't listening. His mind is somewhere else, some other battlefield, some other century. I should have died at the Meuse-Argonne or Bastogne, somewhere that mattered. The road curves ahead, sharp turn, ice on the asphalt. Patton doesn't touch the brakes. "Sir!" And then a 2.5-ton army truck pulls out from a side road, directly into their path. Patton sees it. 1 second. That's all he has. He doesn't swerve, doesn't brake. Some part of him, maybe the part that's been chasing death for 60 years, just watches. The impact is catastrophic. The Cadillac's front end crumples like paper. Patton is thrown forward. His head smashes into the glass partition behind the driver's seat. The sound is sickening. Major Gay is bruised but conscious. The driver is shaken but okay. Patton is lying in the back seat, not moving. "I can't move my arms," he whispers. "Gay, I can't feel my legs." For the first time in his life, George Patton is truly afraid. They rush him to the 130th Station Hospital in Heidelberg. The diagnosis is immediate and devastating. Fractured cervical vertebrae, 3rd and 4th. His spinal cord is crushed, paralyzed from the neck down. The doctors tell him the truth. He'll never walk again, never command again, never ride a horse or hold his revolvers, or stand before his troops. The man who believed he was immortal can't even scratch his own nose. "Is this how it ends?" he asks. His voice is small, broken.
For 12 days he lies there. Beatrice flies in from the States, sits by his bed, holds his hand. He can't feel it. The newspapers report his condition. Messages pour in from around the world. Eisenhower visits. Old enemies send wishes for recovery. But Patton knows this isn't recovery. This is the end. On December 21st, 1945, at 5:50 p.m., he develops pulmonary edema, fluid in his lungs. He can't breathe. The doctors work frantically. Oxygen, medications. Nothing works. At 6:05 p.m., George S. Patton, Jr. dies. Not on a battlefield, not in glory. In a hospital bed, paralyzed, defeated by a traffic accident. The man who thought he could never die learned the cruelest lesson of all. Everyone dies, always, and sometimes the universe saves the hardest lesson for last.
But here's what they don't tell you about Patton's final days. In those 12 days of paralysis, something changed. The arrogance fell away. The swagger disappeared. Visitors said he was different, softer, more human. He talked about his wife, his children, the men he'd lost in battle, not the victories, but the faces, the boys who died under his command. "I should have known them better," he said. "I should have remembered they weren't immortal either." On December 20th, the day before he died, a young private came to visit. Name was Robert Miller. He'd served in Patton's Third Army, lost his leg at the Battle of the Bulge. He walked into the room on crutches, stood there, saluted. Patton couldn't return it, couldn't move his hand. "Sir," the private said, "I just wanted to say, you made me believe I could do anything. You made me believe I was invincible." Patton's eyes filled with tears. "Son," he whispered, "that's the worst thing I could have done." The private didn't understand. "You're not invincible," Patton said. "None of us are. And the sooner you learn that, the better you'll live. Stop trying to be immortal. Start trying to be human." Miller stood there, confused. Then he nodded, saluted again, left. 20 years later, in 1965, that same Robert Miller would become a high school teacher in Ohio. He'd tell that story to every class, every year. "General Patton taught me how to fight," he'd say, "but in his last days, he taught me how to live. He taught me that courage isn't believing you can't die, it's accepting you will, and living fully anyway." They buried George Patton on December 24th, 1945, Christmas Eve. Luxembourg American Cemetery, Plot 41, Row 6, Grave 111. He's surrounded by the men of his Third Army, 5,000 of them, boys who died in the war he commanded. It's exactly where he should be. Not separate, not elevated, not immortal. Just one soldier among thousands. The gravestone is simple, same white marble cross as everyone else. His rank, his name, his dates. No mention of reincarnation, no talk of past lives, no claim to eternal glory. Just a man who lived, fought, and died, like everyone else. Here's the lesson George Patton learned too late. The people who succeed in life aren't the ones who think they're invincible. They're the ones who know they're mortal and fight anyway. The ones who understand their time is limited and use it wisely. The ones who see vulnerability not as weakness, but as the most honest form of strength. Patton spent his entire life trying to escape death. In the end, he learned that death was never the enemy. Fear of being ordinary was. He thought immortality meant being remembered forever as a warrior. But real immortality is simpler than that. It's the private who learned to be human, the students he taught, the lesson passed down through generations, that courage isn't fearlessness, it's facing fear with open eyes, that strength isn't invulnerability, it's accepting your wounds and carrying on,
that glory isn't conquest, it's living with integrity when no one's watching. George Patton died believing he'd wasted his final days. But maybe those 12 days of paralysis were his greatest victory, because for the first time in 60 years, he stopped trying to be a god and learned how to be a man. The car crash didn't kill George Patton. It saved him, just 12 days too late.